Hey, what's up everybody, and thanks so much for watching The Gut Movie. My name is Cale Brock. I'm the writer and director and presenter of this film, and I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming along and committing to your gut and the microbiome. What's really exciting for me is seeing a bunch of you guys in a room together, getting excited and talking about the gut and the microbiome. One of the biggest goals I had with this film was to incite discussion about gut health and get people asking questions about their gut. Because with questions comes awareness, and with awareness comes eventually change. I think that's how we're going to really progress when it comes to helping people with their gut problems. And when we look at the situation as it is now, there are a lot of people with gut problems, but the reality of the situation is that the gut and the microbiome are still very new areas of science. When I spoke with Professor Thomas Borody, who you guys just saw in the film, I said, how much do we know about gut health? How much do we know about what there is to know about the gut and the microbiome? And he said that we know less than 1%. So this is the situation as it stands now. There's still a lot of work to do, and that's why out of a film like this, where we explore the topic, there are some certain questions which do pop up. So today I'm going to try and answer those for you. So one of the first questions I always get is, what should I eat? We can't all go to Africa to fix our microbiome, so what do I eat? Well, that's a pretty simple answer, really. You need to eat whole foods. This is one of the most important things that we find influencing the state of one's gastrointestinal system, their gut health, their microbiome, is the fact people who eat a whole foods diet tend to have a healthier, more diverse microbiome than those who don't. So people who eat processed foods, people who eat the same foods every single day, tend to have a less diverse and healthy microbiome than those who have a varied, wholesome, whole foods-based diet. Now, within that whole foods-based diet, there are, of course, going to be different needs and different requirements for each individual. But the reality of the situation is, and this is why it's very difficult to tell people exactly what to eat, is that we're all different. We're all unique, and our microbiomes are unique, and our own unique microbiomes require different fuel to continue to thrive. And that's where I think the whole principle of your inner nutritionist comes into play. When you start eating whole foods, you have to find which lane you swim in. So you've entered the whole foods pool, but you've got to find which lane you fit in, which lane works best for you. Some people, particularly people who have a more sedentary lifestyle, tend to thrive better off a higher fat, more moderate carbohydrate diet, or very specific carbohydrate diet. So those specific carbohydrates from vegetables, for instance, which support the microbiome, because they're not burning through their energy sources so quickly because they're quite sedentary. Athletes, for instance, require a very different nutritional profile than those sedentary people because they're burning through their energy sources quite quickly, particularly within high intensity sports. So they might require more carbohydrates to continually fuel their exercise. So these are just two examples of how different profiles would require different nutritional sets to actually continue to thrive. And we also have to take into consideration as well, we've got things like stress levels, your goals. Do you want to maintain a healthy microbiome as one, or do you want to be the leanest you can possibly be? It really comes down to you as an individual finding out what works best for you within that whole foods realm. But that's the first place to start, a whole foods diet. So is the answer, go and get a poo transplant? A poo transplant is still a medical procedure, and although it's a very exciting area of science and of the gut microbiome equation, and it's getting some incredible results. When I was speaking with Professor Thomas Borody, he had some very interesting and very powerful stories of patients who had gone to see him for their digestive complaints, but then had also been able to overcome some other very serious issues. For instance, he had a patient who had depression for 30 years, and he came to see Professor Borody for his Crohn's, only to find that not only did the Crohn's disappear, but his depression disappeared as well. And then, you know, as Professor Borody mentioned in the film, he had 3 cases of where MS, multiple sclerosis, disappeared after poo transplants. And, you know, some of those, one particular has persisted 15 years later without that condition anymore. These are pretty huge scenarios, which I think require mainstream media attention and require a lot more discussion, which is, you know, essentially why we put them in the film. So I think what I'm trying to say is that although FMT is a very exciting, very potentially powerful medical intervention, I don't think that we all need to have it. Because remember that we all have a unique microbiome and we all have unique needs. And I think going off what someone like microbiologist John Ellerman says, who's also in the film, our body becomes used to a specific set of bugs when we're born. So we're born with a specific set of microbes, which we inherit from mum at birth, and our immune system becomes very tolerant of them and used to them throughout our life. And when we try to shift that microbiome in a drastic way, for instance, if we bring in a whole new set of bugs via an FMT, for instance, we can actually normally expect the immune system to kick out those new bugs. How interesting is that? So they're actually quite transient, but what the idea is, the theory is that these new bugs potentially suppress an infection along the way, or they kick out a pathogenic microbe along the way. And subsequently, they're able to actually reverse certain symptoms within the host. So I think we can actually achieve these sort of results with a different avenue to an extent. If someone is too far gone, then yeah, they probably may need to go down the route of an FMT and work with a really good practitioner to do that. And there are some really good ones out there. For that, by the way, just head along to calebrock.com.au/recommended, and we've got a list of practitioners there. You can also get your microbiome tested by SmartDNA, who are used in the film, under that link. So it's just calebrock.com.au/recommended. So anyway, as I was saying, we can actually, I think, mimic those results to an extent with our use of a whole foods diet, a not a stress-free lifestyle, but a lifestyle that includes less stress. I think when we look at really healthy, long living cultures around the world in the blue zones, we see that they don't have a lot of stress at all. And they eat very slowly, and they have a couple of red wines with their lunch, and it's taking them 2 hours to eat lunch, you know. It's a very different scenario than we're experiencing today. I mean, right now, for instance, I'm in a very non-blue zone lifestyle because I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to pack up my house before I go to Europe. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But what I'm trying to say is us in the West, we have a very different lifestyle that's not always conducive to health and wellness. So we need to actually counteract that and be very smart and strategic with how we cultivate a certain amount of vitality and a healthy microbiome. And we can do that with a whole foods diet, listening to our body, chewing our food, eating in a stress-free environment, and interacting with our ecology. This is one of the biggest things for me that came out of the film was, hey, you've got to interact with your environment. When we look at the sun, they are constantly interacting with their local ecology, and as a result, their microbiome reflects that. They're picking up microbes from the soil, from the trees, from their feet as they walk through the ground barefoot. So for me now, it's making those conscious decisions to actually go out there and be in touch with nature, to go surfing, but do it very consciously. And when I accidentally swallow salt water, it's not actually a huge deal because I'm picking up a lot of microbes. And those microbes happen to be probably very location specific. And that is also advantageous to me because I am also location specific. So there are a bunch of different ways where we can hack this system and really actually fire up the microbiome in a healthful way. The other thing I'd love to talk about is probiotics. I think probiotics are a really cool and really helpful way to induce a healthful response in the microbiome. As I mentioned before, if we are taking probiotics that are not, that were not inherently given to us, we did not inherit them when we were born from mum, our immune system can actually recognize them as an invader and kick them out. So their existence within our gastrointestinal tract may be transient. But again, like we spoke of before, that's not such a bad thing because if we take a good enough probiotic, then I think we can really optimize conditions within our gut to actually allow our own native microbiome to come back online. And this is where John Ellerman talks about the use of really powerful high-dose probiotic therapy, where you take probiotics and again it washes through the system and creates those optimal conditions for your own gut bacteria, the ones that you inherited when you were born that work best with your immune system, to fire up again and come back online. Those bacteria may also come in and suppress bad bugs. Now, if you receive bad bugs at birth, for instance, which we do, we inherit the good, bad, and the ugly, and they are causing symptoms within your body, we may need to be on a probiotic for the rest of our lives. That's just until we are able to retrain the immune system within this scenario and reset the immune system to be able to tolerate perfect bugs, which we still don't know exist yet. We may have to rely on the use of probiotics every single day. And again, for that, just go under the recommended tab on my website. So one of the most common questions I've been getting is, have you had your microbiome retested since? And it's a really valid question. The answer is no, not yet, but it is going to happen. I am in the midst of writing a book. I'm not sure what the book's going to be called, but it's a very in-depth version of the gut movie plus a whole lot more. I'm going to be getting a bunch of experts together and really basing the book off their work, because those are the people who are putting in the hard yards and really helping us create this massive momentum shift in how we approach health and wellness from not only a treatment perspective of coming in when we're treating disease, but also actually preventing disease in the first place using gut health principles. So within that book, I am going to use my experience for the gut movie as a bit of a driver. And at the end of the book, we're going to retest my microbiome after coming back here to Australia. And applying the principles that I've learned. So actually going out and doing some of my own foraging and doing my own version of hunting, which is just a little bit of fishing. I'm not very good at it. But that's really probably what we're going to focus on in the book. And I think you can expect, as Dr. Michael Mosley points out in his latest gut health book, when you travel, you significantly shift the microbiome. And I would have picked up a lot of location-specific bacteria or microbes in Namibia, but I presumably would have lost those when I came back to Australia. However, remember that even if a microbe's existence within our gastrointestinal tract is transient, as we've spoken about, that can still be a really positive thing. So we will see a year later how my microbiome is faring after such a trip. But again, remember, the microbiome changes very rapidly. Very rapidly. In only a week, I was able to change it very significantly with the sun. So if I could shift my diet, for instance, and bring in a whole bunch of fermented foods and have some apple cider vinegar and then be doing green smoothies every day or whatever, I would shift my microbiome very rapidly. So I could skew the results. But what I want to do is to actually allow a long-term, more sustainable, long, slow approach of a healthy gut balancing or gut nourishing lifestyle to actually see how that impacts my gut microbiome. Who knows? Maybe my gut microbes have gone back to that low diversity and that's my normal set now after taking a lot of antibiotics, like a lot of us have. And that's okay, I've got to accept that, but that's still my responsibility to deal with. And that's why I'm very keen on approaching this from taking probiotics every single day, applying a lot of the principles that I write about in the Gut Healing Protocol, my book, for instance, doing some fermented foods from my other book, The Art of Probiotic Nutrition, and then bringing in all the rest of the stuff that I've talked about, some bovine colostrum, some aloe vera for gut healing, and all these different things, and obviously trying to lead a lifestyle that is really conducive to looking after our gut. So thanks very much again, guys, for tuning in, and I really, really appreciate you coming to see the film. I'm super excited. It's been an amazing journey. Don't forget to check out my work over at calebrock.com, or we may have some books there tonight at the screening. I hope so. And don't forget to tell your friends about the Gut Movie. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.